Hey, Jason.
Mr. Craig. This is it.
Craig. Mr. Jason.
This is
it.
This is what we've been waiting for.
Would you say that it took a lot of effort and persistence to make this one happen?
Yes, and it is the universe best podcast of all time.
Yeah, out of any universe.
Any universe.
All of them.
Every single one.
Yeah. I'll tell you who it is.
Yeah. Do it.
Garrett J. White.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
The warrior?
The warrior. The man.
The man?
The mission.
The mission. And the truth is
revealed.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes Podcast.
Oh!
Boom!
Oh, yes it is, my friends.
There it is.
That's an entrance.
Podcast without the chains.
Love it.
Oh.
That's an entrance.
That is an entrance.
This is actually, this is how I like, back in the day, the business owner would try to be awesome to his employees so he would get a chair that was higher than his employees. I don't even know if this shit's true, but I remember reading about it. This is what we do here with a podcast. When I come into interviews, I just make sure that my background is like, we're like, oh, you don't have HD cameras? Oh, you don't have an awesome background with chains? Oh. So we'll just pretend like the first part didn't happen when I came with a horrible pre-frame.
You should have somebody chained up in the back, shirtless, like the Roman days.
That's right. We'll just we'll take one of my programmers. We'll just wrap on the chain. He'll be light enough.
They deserve it.
Put back there. Well, I'm excited to talk to you guys. You guys have definitely been relentless, and I appreciate that. I have
never give up.
Been a thing for the past couple of years. I just haven't done anything. I literally turn down 3-4 different speaking events a month, and I turn down 8 or 9 podcasts every month. And it's not because I don't care about people. I'm like, dude, we put enough content out there, and I got so much stuff going on. I'm like, let's not do it. But I'm actually very passionate about the topic that you guys are up to. That's why when Sammy came to me, he was like, dude, these guys are relentless. They're not stopping. He's like, what should I tell them? They called back after you told them to call back. I was like, oh shit. All right, let's do it. November. He's like, no, they want to know now. I was like, all right, fuck it. So here we are.
Love it. Thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time, first off. We know you're incredibly busy. And maybe you want to start off talking about that. Talk to us a little bit about, for anybody, there's going to be a lot of people that don't know who you are or the warrior movement that we'd love to, we think that it would really help.
That'll be awesome. Hey, Johan, go grab me a warrior book and a Be the Man book so I can show them some. You got 2 right there? Of course you do. We don't have cameras that are working when we're starting, but we do have books in here. That's good. And we got That's good. Okay. So I'm gonna show you 2 things. All right. So these books started the whole thing. Like this, I put my face in the middle. This is where it all began. Right? This conversation. But
that's it.
They were actually wrote in a different order. Warrior book was written after this book. We have 4 other books that are coming out. We actually get the publishing for Attack with the Stack from my publisher comes this Friday. Our first 500 copies. Next 5,000 will show up 3 weeks from now. And then we have 4 other books being published by the end of the year. So we're super busy doing a lot. But here's the base of how it all started. Be the Man as a conversation. And Wake Up Warrior was born out of my own pain and complete dysfunction. As a man, I had been in mortgages and financial services. I actually built the original Paradigm Life, which is owned by Patrick Donahoe, very successful life insurance company right now. Patrick Donahoe worked for me. He was a college kid at the University of Utah when I ran a mortgage company called the Investors Paradigm in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we had a premise, which was that as a mortgage planner, which at that time was a big thing, right? There were mortgage brokers, but I became a mortgage planner with a guy named Stephen Marshall and a whole bunch of other guys at the time that we became a really big thing in the mortgage game. And we completely took over. I acquired 3 or 4 mortgage companies. We merged them. Patrick Donahoe was there, and I'd met a guy I had a really good friend named Garrett B. Gunderson, who wrote Killing Sacred Cows. I became the CEO of his company in 2008. But at that time, we were strategic partners. And he invited me to go to a hotel for a man who is now passed, the author of the infinite banking concept, Mr. Nelson Nash. So I'm going to tie this whole conversation.
No, I love it.
So I become obsessed with life insurance in 2005. Back in 2003, I bought my first whole life policies from Garrett Gunderson on myself, and it became a competition inside of my mortgage office to see who could get qualified for the most amount of premium on a monthly basis. We didn't have a clue what the fuck we were doing. We just thought it was cool. Garrett had a CD-ROM business card, which was awesome. He had glasses, like, he'd put the glasses, like, put the glass in your mouth, like you're being all smart, like a pipe, but it's glass. We think he's awesome, so we just buy lots of insurance. So I'm already in the insurance conversation heavily at the time that our mortgage planning, which became insurance, real estate, development, mortgage banking, like we were doing everything all at once. I was highly inspired by Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Was a PE teacher that became a guy that wanted to get into real estate, but figured out I could sell and had friends who were in mortgages. And so I just went down that path. But Nelson Nash changed my entire perspective around this idea of insurance. And I actually became more converted to banking style policies and the idea of building massive amounts of cash inside of insurance, even more so than Garrett Gunderson. Which was crazy because Garrett at the time was one who had taught us about insurance. And we had a huge disagreement when we were strategic partners about the fact that I was like, dude, we are going to overfund these policies, period. And me and Patrick Donahoe, Patrick was working for me at the time. He wanted to go back to school. I'm like, dude, we're making too much money here. Don't go fucking back to school. It's a bad idea. We launched a podcast together called Paradigm Life. The Paradigm Life company is born inside of my company, The Investor's Paradigm. And we're having all these talks about insurance, and then the thing happened.
Wow.
Which is 2008 happens.
Yeah, a lot of people heard of that.
We were doing option arms.
Oh.
We were doing interest-only loans. We were stripping equity, and we were putting money into insurance policies, and we were putting money into real estate, and we were putting money into land. We got into currency for a while. That was a horrible idea. And I was one signature away from going to jail.
Wow.
Because of raising money. And we didn't raise money. We refused to do it for whatever reason. We were the only people not raising capital. Call it Patrick. It was probably because Patrick was really smart. So he's like, no, we shouldn't do that. And I had a business partner at the time, Ben Curtis. And so we didn't raise money. Everyone around us, except for Garrett Gunderson and myself, had been raising capital. And
crazy.
He didn't raise money. I didn't raise money. D. Randall, Horizon Financial, like all these fucking guys that were in the game were raising money around us. Huge Ponzi scheme that was built in Utah with a guy named Rick Kerber. And we had been associated on the outside with this whole group. Garrett and I were running a radio show together. Patrick and I were running podcast radio shows together. We had done a lot, and then we got completely destroyed.
Like, what was, like, just to give the scale, because, there's some younger people that listen to us and they don't even remember 2008. Right. Because I was working in the bank, in the financial advisor in the banking business at that time. I remember looking at the, screen and going, oh shit, we got a problem. Right. And so you're just crushing it. Like, at what scale, like how much were you guys loaning out or lending? How much did you have on the books?
So our brokerage, we had offices inside. I'll look at it from a different way. Even like, okay, we were brokering almost everything. We banked on some, but the bigger piece of the story I think is even more significant is that we got our first notification of no payment of commissions in November of October. Shit. We were there in September. We came back. Okay, I'm speaking at the Mortgage Planner Summit in 2007 with Tony Robbins in Las Vegas. We bring the whole crew down. I speak on stage, mortgage coach with Dave Savage, all these guys, like I'm buddies. You can still look up, you Google it on YouTube with mortgage coach Garrett J. White. You can see me speaking on stage at the Mortgage Planner Summit with a suit that was too baggy. Now I wear tight custom boots. Back then I wore baggy custom suits. I don't know why. But at that time, I remember we came back from that event, and it was about 6 weeks later that Greenpoint Mortgage goes down. We had funded and had over $500,000 in commissions due to my company. And we got paid, funded, closed, recorded, not funded. So I come into the office and one of my guys, older guys, we had a whole floor in Salt Lake City, downtown, big building, whole floor filled with our guys. I come in and one of our older guys is just panicked. Like he's just stressing. He's just stressing. Hey, will you turn the air up just a little bit warmer in here, bro? And he had like panic look in his eyes. And this is like a week after we come back from Vegas from this event. And I can't understand why they're all freaking out. But they're stressed. And I'm like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I hadn't been in the trench selling for a year. I was just managing our sales floors. And it got real bad, real fast. Like real fast. And people want to blame the mortgage industry. No. I just wasn't a great businissman.
How did you handle that? That must have been a crazy amount of pressure crashing down on you at once.
It was. I remember walking into Ben Curtis's office. He was my business partner at the time. It was him, me, and Patrick, and Ben's dad, Marv Curtis. And I walk in, and Ben's like, dude, we're done. Now, remember, I'm a PE teacher at 25. So by the time this happens, like 6 years later, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and everything in it, and I go all in. I'm aggressive. I'm far more aggressive than I am smart. Right? Which was like our whole team. We're young. We're in our 20s. All the young dudes now get excited about Bitcoin and all this. That's why people, you want to get in Bitcoin? I was like, fuck you and your Bitcoin. Any of it. Because it used to be currency, and it was like land deals and real estate. No. I've already been through that and got my ass handed to me. Now I sound like the old guys that were talking to me.
Yeah.
Right.
In my late 20s, and they're saying, slow down.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen.
Wow.
So, man, it was completely painful. We lost everything. I had to fire everybody. Let go of my mom, let go of my sisters, let go of like my brother worked for me, my brother-in-laws. And the worst part was we got everybody landed with jobs. Patrick Donho, such an amazing guy, took Paradigm Life, got his ass kicked for 4 or 5 years, and turned it around. And I left. I left the industry completely. And I went to a really, really, really fucking dark place. Like a real dark place. And that's the place I talk about here in Be the Man, which was I was exposed. Like my whole life was exposed in a super painful way. I wasn't trying to be a wake-up warrior at that time. I was just trying to survive.
How did you handle it? What did you do? Because you did go from like lots of cash coming in to evaporated, right?
I lied to my wife for about 9 months after that. She had no idea anything had happened. Let her keep spending. I took all my personal cash and tried to save the businesses. We kept hitting payroll for way too long. We should have let everybody go way sooner. We didn't though, because I didn't have any experience with that.
Right.
You know, and we lived in a world where we could make mistakes as mortgage guys and land guys and doing real estate. You could fix your mistakes, and if you had a $800,000 problem this month, you could fix it 2 months. Well, we couldn't fix it anymore.
You thought you could buy time and maybe something would happen, right?
But
and it kept getting worse.
Money's gone. And I remember I get in a car and I drive down I live in Salt Lake City at the time, and I drive down to Utah County to my friend Eric Kendall, who had originally gotten me, his companies had originally given me an opportunity in mortgages, which was a company called Flagship Financial, which became New Freedom Mortgage. And I drove up there in a sports car, the suit on, no team members, no employee, no company, no money. No, I'm sitting in a parking lot. I remember I'm sitting in a parking lot, get a cash advance on a credit card that I would never pay for until like 8 years later. $26,000 cash advance at like, I don't know, 37% interest or something. I don't give a shit. Move the money over. I go sit down with my friend Eric. I knock on his door, go in his office, sit down. He's like, bro, what's up? We had been competing with him. My mortgage company, his mortgage company. That's who I started with. We would beat them with, they would do way more volume, but we would do way more in commissions because of just how much we were making on loans. And it was big competition. I asked him for a job.
That had to be tough.
He thought I was joking. He's looking at me, he's like, dude, his whole crew was at the Mortgage Planner Summit in Las Vegas with me training from stage. And here I am like 9 months later, and I'm knocking on his door asking for a job. And he's like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, dude, I just got to pay my fucking bills, man. Like,
crazy.
So he says, you can take the conference room. So I take the conference room. I set up my big displays. And I come in, and over the next 6 weeks, I do VA home loans. And every day I go out to the parking lot, and I would sit in my car, and I would just fucking cry. I was like, how the fuck? Like, it was like my whole world had gone backwards. Like I could, and the problem was I was too far past. I had gotten so down the path of wealth and finances and dealing with money, I could not be a schlinging VA loan guy anymore. Like I just couldn't do it. I would sit, I would fuck it up. I'd be talking to people and I'd be like, listen, man, I'm going to tell you right now, don't do this loan. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, this is your third refinance in like 12 months. You should stop this shit. You're going backwards. Stop doing this. And then the guys at the office come by, listen to me, like, you know, it actually helps to sell things if you encourage the buyer to do the thing that we're selling. I was like, I know I can't do this stuff. So yeah, that was like the onslaught of how the whole thing like opened up. That was the birth epicenter of the implosion of my first companies. And I hired a guy by the name of Steve D'Annunzio, who's still a pretty big, you know, life coach inside of the insurance space. And I had hired him in 2006 and prepaid him for 2 years of coaching, which was great. Good idea, because I didn't have any money to pay him. And I went out to the car and I had a call with him, and I sat in the car in Eric's office in the snow, in the winter, in my car that I'm about to get taken because I can't afford it. I can't sell VA loans because I can't hustle these people. I just can't do it. I can't hustle it. I was like, I can't fucking hustle these people. I don't believe in this. I can't sell this loan. I can't sell this to these people. And he's listening to me and he's talking to me to give me some counsel. And he says, I want you to look in the mirror. I was like, okay. And so I'm looking in my rearview mirror at myself. So I want you to take a deep breath. I was like, all right. So I take a deep breath. So I want you to close your eyes. So I want to take a deep breath again. So I do. Says, I want you to open your eyes. I want you to look at yourself again. So what's the one word that comes up for you? And the word that rose for me that day that changed everything for me was the word surrender. And I did. Like I didn't quit. I surrendered. There's a difference.
So what does that mean to you?
Surrender for me was like this. It was the beginning of a journey of really coming to understand like who I actually was and what I wanted. I'd been whipped up into a mortgage industry that was just a frenzy. And did I love real estate? Did I love financial services? Did I love it? I didn't know. You know, what did I know? I don't know. I let everything go. My marriage was exposed. I'd spent so many years building these companies and ignored my wife the whole time. And ignored our baby, ignored my son from my first marriage. I had become obsessed with being successful. And here I was in this place where I didn't have any of that. I wasn't an athlete anymore. I wasn't a successful business owner anymore. I didn't have any money. And in this place, I only had one answer, which was submit. And so for the next 4.5 years, I would unturn and uncover everything in my life. I walked away from the religion I was raised in. I questioned everything inside of my marriage. I questioned everything inside of business. I questioned the core of who I was, because along that line, I found that I had no clue who I was or what the purpose of my life was. And it sounds so fucking cliche when you hear people say it. And when I heard it, I used to feel the same way. It's so cliche. What the hell? That doesn't mean anything. And yet there I was, having built something and given a taste of what life could be like, and then stripped down to a life that was further in the hole than when I was a PE teacher and a football coach with limited money. And that became the birth center of Wake Up Warrior. And that became the birth of the rise from 2009 to 2019 of the next decade of my world of putting together the art and science of what we call the Warrior's Way, which was how I put my life back together.
So take us from that deepest, darkest place that you were in, and that first thing that pulled you up, and kind of the process through that.
So I started recognizing that I didn't have, I had nothing to offer people. Like when you have money and you have a business and you have like things going on, you appear very sexy to other companies. We were like, oh, you got these leads, you got this thing, da 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 da. And when you're married to a woman who's beautiful and you have money and you have success and you have accolades, well, you're also very attractive. Well, when you can't pay the fucking bills, and the worst is, as a guy, is you're like, well, I don't understand why I'm not getting a blowjob right now on a Tuesday. Well, I'll tell you why you're not getting a blowjob on a Tuesday, because you haven't paid the bills for the past 2 months. You're not attractive. You're disgusting. Like,
right.
Safety and security means everything. And you're like, if she does have sex with me, then I would be successful. No, asshole, goes the other direction. You need to be successful, and then she's going to want to have sex with you. You're actually very disgusting right now because you can't pay the bills. And she had to sell your triathlon bike to put groceries in the fridge, which was a real deal. So I realized the only resource I had available to me in 2009 was one thing, which was the truth. Like, I didn't have anything else. I hired a guy by the name of Ron Zeller in 2009. He was a Landmark Forum leader. He was also from Utah, knew me, Gunderson, and the whole crew back in the time. And I hired him for $10,000 for 10 calls. And I remember it was right when I short sold our final piece of property. I short sold our house that we were in, and we were moving into a rental. And I had to make a decision. Like, I was sitting, I had to make a decision between pay $10,000 for this coaching for 10 calls or pay the mortgage. Like, pay the mortgages or pay the coach.
Right.
Now, the guilt and then me, I was like, oh, I got to pay the mortgages. I got to pay the mortgages. But I remember I was out there shoveling snow. I was like, shoveling snow by myself, feeling worthless, shoveling snow, just to fucking get out of the house. I mean, wife didn't want to talk to me. I understood. You know, I hadn't been around for like 7 years. I'd been there, but I wasn't around. I wasn't involved. I didn't care about her. Why the fuck would she care about me now, particularly now when I had nothing? So I'm like shoveling. And there's this distinct thought that comes in. If you pay your mortgage, you'll feel good for a week. And 3 weeks after that, you're still going to be dumb.
Yeah.
But, and guess how much the bank's going to give a shit? Zero going to give a shit. Which means they're still going to go forward with the proceedings regardless. Or you could invest in this coach and you can become bigger than the problem and you can start to dig your way out. And it was the first big decision I had ever made. I had hired Steve D'Annunzio before that, and I'd done a ton of the Rich Dad Poor Dad series with Robert Kiyosaki and paid for a lot of coaching, real estate, etc. But this was the first time I didn't even know what I was signing up for. So I get on the call with Ron Zeller, very first phone call. I make that investment. I don't tell my wife. Because at this point, I'm like, I'm so fucked with her, it doesn't even matter. I'm going to do this thing. And I get on the call with him, and the first thing he says to me is, okay. I said, well, what are we going to call it? What are we going to cover in this call? And he said, we're going to work on one thing. He's, what's that? We're going to work on integrity. He's like, this 10 calls, our entire goal is to help you become an integritous man, to get you in integrity. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're a liar. You've been trained to be a liar. You've been taught to be a liar. You behave like a liar. He's like, you're a fucking liar. And so our work together for the next 10 calls is going to be about helping you come to terms with what integrity actually is. It's not about the truth. It's the getting into integrity, that what you do on the outside, what you say on the outside is alignment with what you actually feel and see on the inside.
When he said that to you, I mean, you know, if he had said that to you 5 years ago, you would have been like, fuck off, right? I know what I'm doing. Fuck you, you're stupid, right? And here you are, or you're already beaten down. Like, how did you accept that? Did you accept it? And you owned it?
Other option.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, listen, 2006, I'm sitting with a guy named Mark Eldridge. Mark Eldridge is an amazing human being. He passed away with some lung issues that came up like 3 years after. It was like 2009 he died. Young kid, super sad, huge builder in Salt Lake City, Utah, one of the most successful developers there. And I was sitting on his Masscraft X80 at Bear Lake in Utah on the lake. He has his oxygen tank on. He had been diagnosed with this disease. They knew he had a couple years to live only. And I looked at him and he said two things to me in 2006. This is summer of 2006. He said, sell everything, go to cash, shrink your companies, sit on the sideline. Second thing he told me, spend more time with your wife.
Wise dude.
And of course, I thought, who the fuck is this old guy, Craig? I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm like, I hear you, but, you know, and I was even probably arrogant of in my own mind of like, yeah, you're dying. You know, that's probably why you're saying that. And which, dude, I was so like unconscious.
You nailed it.
I mean, so I'm sitting there in a miserable situation, which most men tend to not do shit about their business or about their lives. Like they don't do much until a traumatic or dramatic thing occurs.
Right.
Then they choose to listen. So, dude, I had nothing. I literally had nothing. I had a couple $1,000s in the bank besides what I had given this guy, Ron Zeller, and the calls worked. I recorded each one of them. He even told me, I was like, are you going to record the calls and send them to me with notes? He's like, no. He's like, you want to record it? You figure out how to record it, and you record it, and you handle it. And I was like, okay. And for 10 calls, he literally helped me become aware of how big of a liar I was. And then that became the foundation for Warrior. It was this work I did with Ron Zeller. He was, again, a Landmark Forum leader for 36 years. I'd attended the Landmark Forum back in 2006. It was a good experience for me, but I was not even mentally in a place to even understand it. And so here I am in 2009, and I'm having these deep, profound insights. At the same time, I start ultra running. So I had finished Ironman World Championships in 2007. 2008, I started ultra running, and I started running 20, 30 miles a day. I dropped down 172 pounds in weight, which I'm a 200-pound guy, which, you know, almost 30 pounds off of my body frame. I looked sick, like I'd been starving myself, but it was because I was running. I was running 20 miles a day. 20 miles in the morning, 15 miles in the morning, 30. I was entering 100-mile races, 150-mile foot race. I would just run. So meanwhile, I'm coaching Ron. I'm running all the time. I'm losing all this weight. I have no idea what I'm doing. I leave the religion I'm raised in. My wife is like, this guy's a fucking psychopath. Now he's literally gone off the reservation. Everyone around me is like, he's a nut job. He's a complete and utter fucking nut job. And at that time, Chris Crone, who owned REIC, now it's called Stonebrook, gave me a job. And I worked for him in Orem and started working on this project called Awaken Soul Purpose. And that became the second piece of the equation, which was answering these two ideas: who am I and what is the purpose of my life? And what I came to find out in this for me was two simple answers. Over years of study and working with the Ashaya monks for years and just going down every path I could find to try to search for truth for me was, I am who I believe I am. Nothing more, nothing less. Which means, as a producer, as a business owner watching this, your business is limited by who you believe you are. That's it. And what you believe you're worth and what you believe you can create. So that was the first piece. And the second piece was the purpose of my life was not perfection. The purpose of my life was expansion. And that I've been so hard on myself about trying to do everything perfect And I was raised in Mormonism. And so that culture is very, very driven, very, very driven in a lot of productive ways. And at the same time, my interpretation of it was perfection. And so the perfection lens had caused me to paint myself into a box. And it was a very guilt-driven, shame-driven box that I just couldn't get free of. And so I started building. And I started building off of these two ideas that the purpose of my life is expansion, which is today I need to be better as a man than I was yesterday. Today I need to be better as a businessman than I was yesterday. I don't have to be the best. I just have to be one step better than I was yesterday. And that's progress. And that my eternities are now, not someplace I'm going to go to. And so I'll just work on today. And then, yeah, but what about next year? I was like, I don't know about next year. But what I know is I'm going to deal with it today. I'm like an alcoholic trying to stop drinking. Like, are you going to drink tomorrow? Probably going to drink tomorrow. So, are you going to drink today? No. For sure today I'm not going to drink. Or are you going to drink tomorrow? Oh, I'm going to probably get fucking hammered tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, you're like, what are you going to do today? Well, I'm for sure not drinking today.
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing tomorrow? Oh, dude, I'm probably going to be on a plane to Vegas with a line of Coke and fucking just smashing it. I'm going to be done, like for sure. But what are you going to do today? Right now, today, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to read my books, and I'm going to go to AA this morning. Okay, and then tomorrow comes in. And so I started playing it almost like a recovering alcoholic, where I just dealt with today and the screaming from my wife and the disappointment from family and the clients and the banks constantly calling and all the money I owe people and just the pressure. I just shut everyone out. And I just worried about this. What can I do right now?
What can you control? Yeah. That's crazy. So talk about that journey from there to, yeah, I guess where you are today, but like, I mean, how did you mend those relationships and how did that look?
I came to discover like to create. So insurance is an interesting world because if you deal with insurance and the conversation of human life value, it's like people don't really get it, right? Like right now, my application is in for another $75 million in life insurance. Right. And people are like, well, I never could appreciate the fact that you have to actually be a producer at a certain level to qualify for certain things. Like on top of with the permanent insurance I have in play right now, which I think is like 14 million in whole life. And then another 75 million in convertible term, which will convert like 10 million over the next every year over the next. Anyways, there's like a process and strategy we're doing with this. But human life value as a concept is something that most human beings, including 99% of life insurance agents, are just fucking retarded about. Like they don't get it. Insurance companies get it though. Like it's the most pure way to look at what a human being is. A man's value can be measured. It's not, oh, I'm worth $1 billion. You're not worth $1 billion. Like who you are as a soul is infinite in its capacity and its potential. But when it comes to productivity, no, sorry, you're worth $835,000. What? Yeah. Well, guess what? If you died today, based upon how much you've proven yourself as a producer, your human life value dictates the following into the future value of your lifespan would be worth X per year over 20, over 30, over 40, or permanently until you die, which now they push to like 120 years. You're like, okay, so that's how much you're worth. So I started looking at human life value from a very different place and realized that I was the source of everything in my world. There was a power that came through me, but I had to make the decision to act on it. I had to make the decision to move, to do the thing that this voice was telling me. Do this thing. Do this thing. So I started. And the first thing it brought me to was like, listen, you keep trying to solve your business problems by solving your business problems. You have a bigger problem that's fucking this up. Like you just have a problem. It's like somebody pouring tar in your gas tank. Like you got this amazing car, you got a Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever you got, and you're pouring tar into the gas tank. And then you try to start the car and you're dealing with the tires. You're like, well, the fucking tires. If I have better tires, then the car works better. You're like, no, you don't have a tire problem. You have a tar problem. There's tar in the gas tank. So I was like, all right, I'm going to deal with the tar, which is in me. And from that place, I'll make some new decisions. And so I started there. And I said, I'm not going to solve my business problems by solving my business problems. I'm going to solve my business problems by solving me. I'm going to deal with my human life value. My human life value is currently low. I'm not insurable at a high level because who I am as a producer is shitty. My marriage value is low. My human life value as a man and as a husband, my stock price is low. Why are you not getting laid? Because you suck as a husband. Now, my stock value as a father is low. Why do your kids not give a shit when you walk in the house? Because you suck as a father. Okay, my human life value is low. My doctors say that I'm going to get pre-diabetic. I'm this, I'm that. Listen, you're not insurable because your body is shit and you're drinking too much and you're smoking too much weed and you're eating too many Doritos and whatever goes on here. Well, my human life value is low. So I started looking at it from place, okay, what's the first thing that I know I can control with my human life value? My body. Okay. I can't make any money, but I can't tell the truth. I can tell the truth. I don't know how to do the money thing again yet, but I can't control my body. And so I noticed that there was a deeper level of certainty in me when I worked out. So every day I started tracking. I was like, okay, I'm going to see what happens on the days I work out and the days I don't work out and see if I feel different in sales calls or like getting into conference calls or being in meetings. And sure enough, I noticed a massive difference. Massive. Like it's always fun for me to deal with people who deal in the conversation of protection, which is your audience, right? So yes, all of you overweight insurance agents, what the fuck? It's like as bad as having an overweight chiropractor.
Right.
It's like, dude, I'm trying to listen to you, but I can't hear you. You're talking about protecting people's lives, but you're not even protecting yourself. You're walking around, you're the guy that's 35, 45, 75 pounds overweight trying to give me advice about supplements. I was like, fuck off about your supplements. I don't want to hear shit about you because obviously whatever it is, it's not working for you. Because I'm gonna go by what you live, not by what you learn. This also goes out to all the agents that are watching this who continue to pitch life insurance, but you don't have life insurance, or you just have term insurance, but you keep pitching whole life and banking when the fact is you don't do that shit. You're a fucking hypocrite.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna get on my soapbox. Now, so I deal with my body, and that seemed to work. The second thing I realized is I could also deal with my being, which for me was like meditation and studying things that inspired me. And so I started tracking that every day. And I noticed that when I meditated and when I connected with a sense of this voice, this thing in me, God or whatever you called it, in that place, as I connected with it, I felt more productive. And I didn't have to have a six pack, and I didn't have to be like, some pastor leading a big church to feel that kind of power. I shouldn't be heading in that direction every day. Okay, so I worked out, I sweat, I feel good. Okay, I meditated, I connected, I feel good. The third thing I noticed was that my wife and I rarely spent any productive time together. So there were two things I started doing. One, I started requiring a date night every week, which evolved now, and a decade later, we run a podcast called Date Your Wife, which is very popular. People love that podcast. It's my wife and I basically going to therapy every week on our show with ourselves. We're just like dealing with shit. People are like, you realize it sounds like you were really angry on that show. I was like, oh, we were. My wife almost walked out the fucking studio. We were doing real shit. Okay.
That's awesome.
So I started taking my wife on dates. And then the other thing I started doing is I started making daily deposits into my wife's life. I realized, what I need to do? I need to start sending her messages of appreciation, and because I didn't do that. 7 years we're married. At 8 years of time, I didn't do that. And I started doing it. And she told me to stop sending them and quit sending me messages because she said, you're a dick and I don't want to hear from you. And I was like, man, so I'd feel bad. But then this piece was like, no, keep sending them. So I just kept sending them. And I would send messages to my ex-wife, and I would send messages to my son. And I started rebuilding relationships in my life with this daily message. I was like, I'm going to start sending this message every day, even though most people were telling me to fuck off. My mom, when I left the Mormon church, my mom and I didn't really talk for 3 years. And I would start sending my mom messages. And for weeks and weeks and months, my mom wouldn't respond to shit. She was very hurt, very offended, very angry. That's not the case now. All of our relationships are deeply healed, and everyone's on fire, and people come to our house for vacations and holidays, and we're so connected as family now. It's wonderful. But we did go through a very, very dark 5 to 6 year time period while I was figuring out what ultimately became the Warriors Way game, which was a gamified system that now 50,000 plus men in 27 different countries are playing all inspired, driven by now the curriculum found inside of the Warrior book and the entire breakdown series that's coming. Like, it became this science, but I didn't know that at the time. All I was trying to do was figure out how to be more powerful as a businessman. So I would do body being balance every day, make a deposit with one of my kids and my wife, send them something, meditate and study something spiritual, work out, and I would drink green smoothies. I got introduced to that, and I was like, I'm gonna try this. So I would do this, and guess what? I started seeing things differently in business. It's what I called reverse engineered production. I was like, okay, I wanna solve a production problem, but the problem is I have these 3 anchors of guilt, shame, and weight that are pulling me back, and body being a balance. So if I can handle those, possibly I can handle the conversation of business better, and it worked.
That's great. And everybody has those, has something, because not every, you have to consciously work on each element of yourself, and, you know, in order to feel good about it. And when we let those things go, it might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, it might be months or years, they do start pulling you down. And when you're at work, you're not as productive. So I totally get that. That's huge, I think.
Dude, Matt, well, it's like more than I give it, particularly, listen, I know our audience is listening to this right now. You guys are in an insurance game. If you're in a PNC game, you guys are a different breed. Okay. So like, you're going to be over here in your category. PNC guys are over here. You're great. I got a couple good friends, huge state, all state agencies, like one of the biggest in Orange County, biggest in Southern California. Like, they run some really big stuff. They're very amazing. Ted Bauman, like a few other guys, great men. Okay, PNC guys have a different psychology. The guys I'm really going to talk to are guys that deal with life insurance. All you life insurance agents, like, I need you to understand the concept. The Warrior's Way is the greatest frame of all time. The greatest frame of all time for selling life insurance. There is nothing. Do you know what Wallace C. Wattles, all these personal development guys were born in the Depression because they were trying to sell insurance. Insurance is the hardest shit in the world to sell, yet everybody needs it. And when you understand what life insurance actually is, and the protection of human life value, it is easy to sell. Why? Because the people want to buy. That's the challenge, though, is that you have to buy into this hook, line, and sinker, which means if your life doesn't have value to you, you're going to struggle to encourage others to see value in their own life. And the protection of human life value is the entire conversation of insurance. Fuck banking strategies and paid-up additions and paid-up addition riders and anything else to go. No, put all that to the side. If you just look at the baseline of protection, here's the deal. If you hate your wife, you don't want to protect yourself. Why? Because when you die, you hope she gets fucked. You don't care. Right. I know this in myself. When I fully was all in with my wife, all in. No, like, we're going to get divorced. No car warmed up in the driveway. I'm going to bail. No wandering eyes constantly checking out other women. No, nothing. Like, when I was all in, I had a radical shift inside of my own heart about protecting my family, protecting myself, and protecting my business. I remember going into surgery for an Achilles tendon repeat thing they were fixing just a couple years ago. And I'm sitting there weeping before I go to surgery. And I had tumors and lost my teeth. And listen, I've had a shitload of very intense surgeries where doctors were very worried if I'd come back, and I was not stressed. But I also didn't care about my life. Like, I didn't have much to live for. I didn't care, really. It wasn't like I was, I'm going to die. Then all of a sudden I built something that mattered, and a marriage that mattered. And I loved my children. My kids loved being with me. And I had a life that I woke up to every day that was exciting and on fire. And here I was going into surgery, recognizing for the first time, even though I'd had major surgery 10 or 12 times, recognizing they're going to take me to death's door. And they're going to hold me there. And there are people that don't come back from this shit on basic operations because they're hovering you above death with medication. Somebody has a rough morning, they fuck up the medication, I die. I don't come back. I lie down on the table, I do not come back. And I wanted to live. I was like, I was the one that pushed for more insurance. I'm not, listen, I'm a partner in a general agency, but like I was pushing for it more than my agents were pushing for it. Because I'm like, listen, I want the certainty that comes when I get on a plane. I want to get on a plane and I want to know. I don't want to think. I don't want to hope. I want to know. I want to know I transferred 100% of the risk in my world to a company that's willing to partner with me. In my case, it's One America and a few others, Penn Mutual, who partnered with me in this. So like, listen, we'll take on the risk. You give us a premium. We'll take on a risk so that you can have a psychological frame as a producer that lets you know on a daily basis, shit is okay. You can spend, you can build, you can grow. And if something happens, everything's okay. And so when I started to live the Warriors way, I started to care about me. I started to care about my wife. I started caring about my kids. And this naturally blended itself over to protecting my employees, protecting my clients, protecting my wife, protecting my children, because you only protect what you value. Why do guys buy the minimum of insurance coverage? Because they don't see the value in what they have. Once you see what you have, once you recognize the value of what you have and who you are, then the answer is always the same. Maximum amount qualified for that economically lines up and doesn't put you at poverty's door. Whatever that is, you go. And then from that foundation of certainty, you fucking build. And you build, and then you stabilize and protect. And then you build, and then you stabilize and protect. And then you build, and you stabilize and protect. And you build the fucking walls, and you build the moat around the castle, and you hire the full-time fucking archers up on top to shoot any motherfucker that comes close. And you stockpile huge amounts of cash at the core of these castles, where the queen and your children and you sit in a place. You know, I need more ad spend. No, asshole, it doesn't make any sense to keep expanding the walls of your kingdom when you're using plastic Tupperware forks as a wall to keep people out. Good for you. You just took an entire area. You expanded the kingdom. Well done. Don't worry. Tomorrow, a bunch of 7th graders with BB guns are going to fucking take it. I have a little bit of an opinion on this topic.
Honestly, though, this is what a lot of people need to hear straight up. Like, sometimes you need to be beat over the head with stuff. So it's good.
I wish somebody had talked to me this way. Like Garrett Gunderson did a great job of introducing this. Michael G. Isom, both these two are men who have been advisors to me inside the insurance world for, since like 14, 15, 16 years ago. And so I get it. Like, I see it. I think it's why I get so frustrated with agents. So many that I meet is because they don't get it. They got into insurance for the same reason I got into mortgages. You just defaulted into it. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like a chiropractor becomes a chiropractor, doesn't even really have a passion for people. Well, his clinic will always become a pain practice. But pure chiropractors build prevention practices. They don't build pain clinics. They don't go the hospital model. Right. And it's unfortunate because I swear if most agents, and here's the crazy part is like agents who get this, who get the soul of what insurance is about. They get the soul of it, but they also get the tactical execution of it. And then they live a very simple principle, which is they learned that listening to shows like this, they live it, and then they lead it. Right, which is what I live my life by now. It's not what I lived my life on before. I would learn some shit and then I would lead it. I didn't actually live most of it. I lived like half of it. And so I would lead a lot from theory. And I would lead, and I was young, I was in my 20s and my early 30s, and I just didn't know any different. I was fake it till you make it was what we were taught. It was like, hey, you just don't do your thing and eventually it works out. And then I recognized that was not the case. And I recognized that if I was a liar to me, I'd lie to my clients. And if I didn't tell the truth to myself, if I couldn't tell the truth to me, how could I look at a client and tell the truth to them? How can I push somebody to get something as a product that I don't have myself? How can I push somebody to do something that I don't do myself? When it doesn't become selling anymore, and when it simply becomes serving, when it becomes a conversation, instead of you trying to convince people, when it becomes that as a conversation for you, is because it's become who you are. And your marketing changes and your sales change. I mean, worrywealth.com, we have an entire movie series that I put up there on the conversation of wealth. And that thing produces leads for us every single day, all day long. I'm not even trying yet. I walk circles around most people in the insurance agency. I wouldn't even consider myself an insurance agent. Why? Because I consume the product. I live it. I stock the cash. I put PUA in. I go to the limit. I play the game hard. Well, I sit with my bankers at Chase and the private bankers here on all of my relationships that try to convince me otherwise. I'm like, no. I put my money in 3 places. I put my money in myself. I put my money in my businesses, and I put my money into cash policies. That's it. I don't put my money anywhere else. Well, what about these securities over here? No. You tell me I should go invest in somebody else's business instead of invest in my mine? Not going to happen. If you're a professional at doing that, then good for you. Go do that. Garrett, you want to buy real estate? No, I do not. I only buy the buildings that my businesses operate in. That's it. And then my businesses pay myself lease. Well, Garrett, you want to buy this development over here because it looks so cool and blah, blah, blah? No. Hey, Garrett, you want to get into hemp? You want to get into marijuana? You want to be part of this dispensary? I'm like, no, listen, I don't even like smoking weed. I smoke weed, I feel paranoid. I was like, I'm not a user of the product. I'm not getting involved. I don't own a business in that industry. You guys smoke weed. You love smoking weed. I'm not saying you two smoke weed. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But my friends like smoke weed like crazy. I'm like, dude, good. Yeah, but there's so much money. I'm like, yeah, but I don't give a shit. Well, dude, you want to just be a silent investor? I was like, I'm not doing that ever again. No.
That's cool.
I have no idea if this is adding value to your listeners, but
Oh, it's awesome.
100%.
Garrett, as you started to win, right? It was a long time down in the ditch, and you started to win and come back. Did you feel the old ego start to sneak in? Or was it that, how did you deal with that? I know that you had the balance and you had, the mind, the body, and you had your formula.
Dude, I'll give you some examples. This happened in the last year and a half, right? So my wife and I are in the hair industry, and we're in financial services too. And then I'm in, obviously, coaching and training, consulting. And then we have information products like we were in software. We have supplements like Warrior Greens that just came out. We have I'm involved in a lot of things right now. But one of the things that just happened last year and a half is I got distracted in an interesting way. So we live in Orange County. My wife and I run salons, and she runs a specific method of hair extension known as Natural Beat a Rose. She created it herself. I helped build the branding, packaging, and marketing around it. And we reframed the way that salons were done. And in that led to thousands of hairstylists who train with us now on these methodologies of how to do the hair, how to run their salons, and how to build a marketing system to support people who apply to get their hair done, which sounds crazy. We're like, why would you apply to get their hair done? I was like, yeah, we're going to do that. And we did, and it worked, and it's worked amazing. Well, a lot of our clients in the salons are big YouTubers, Orange County housewives, like they're celebrities from LA. There's a lot of, so we get invited to a lot of crazy shit. We get invited to all these parties, and we get to hang out with these people. And I never really gave a shit at all. And so my wife, one night going on date night, we're going to go to this thing. And it was years ago, David August, who runs David August Suits, him and Conor McGregor became the suit line, but David August has been putting clothier that's been pretty popular around here. He's in New York here, and he clothed a lot of very powerful people. His kids and our kids went to the same school. My wife always saw him. She'd be like, oh, look how good David looks. I'm like, fuck David. I don't want to I'll wear my Lulu anti-ball crushing pants in my band. So please stop it. I don't give a shit about how good, even though in my mind I was like, he looks pretty good, dude. The guy looks pretty good. So one night we're going to go out on a date. I'm going to go to this party, and I got nothing. I got a plaid t-shirt, and I got like jeans, and my wife's dressed the nine. She's huge in fashion. She looks good. And she's like, she's like, hon, can I be straight with you? I was like, of course. She's like, you look like shit. I was like, she's like, I know you're beautiful. I know you're gorgeous. I love you. I was like, but we're going somewhere and look at me. Look at you. I was like, you're not even trying. Like a wake up warrior t-shirt is not trying. You wear that every day. I was like, yeah, but it's a new wake up warrior t-shirt. So we end up going down this way of getting a suit. So she gets me one suit, which then turns into, because I'm in the hair world and fashion world, I start getting more suits. Next thing you know, I'm wearing sparkly Louis Vuitton shoes and like all this like crazy shit that is happening in the hair game. And we have new marketing counselors and consultants that are coming in. You got a hard flex, you need the soft flex. Here's what you need to do. You need to start putting your Lambos in the videos. I'm like, dude, I don't put the Lambos in the videos. That's like kind of my messaging. Like, I drive the Lambos till I like them. I don't put them in the videos because I want people to give a shit. So that my marketing and things started changing. Shit started getting confused. And the hair game and Warrior all kind of came together. So I came to a head with this about 8-9 months ago. And to the point I was very disappointed in myself. Very disappointed. It's not like I'd done anything wrong to anyone. It's just to answer your question, Craig, like I had gotten to a place where there was a piece in my mind, the guy from 2007 who pulled in with the entourage into Las Vegas was paying for everything.
Right.
Doing like just that guy. There was a piece of that guy who was coming further and further to the surface. Now, I still live in the Warriors way. We're still serving people, but there was an edge of arrogance that was building.
Started sneaking in.
I could feel it coming. And I was like, but I didn't recognize it because it was so subtle and so slow. And then I got to this point where I was like, what the fuck am I doing? This was in March. We're running the biggest hair event we had run at the time. $5,000 a ticket to be at this thing. Packed house, massive, 400 girls inside this event, like big. I walk off a stage and I come to the side room for the speakers. I put my CFO in on all our teams and my wife. I said, I'm out. Like, I'm out. Like, I will give you executives, team members, whatever you need to take care of this, but I'm out. I'm done. I'm not fucking doing this anymore. And I put on my suits in the closet. I stopped all the photo shoots. And I stopped letting my teams push shit. And we still have trailing ads and stuff everywhere. I was like, that's not how I built this. I'm not going to go back to that guy. Yeah, and it's not about suits, and it's not about cars, and it's not about money. It was about an energy, which is I forgot for a moment about the mission. I forgot about the mission. We started going to thousands of men. That's not what I wanted to do. I canceled WarriorCon 4. That cost me $600,000. I had to wire the Hyatt Hotel to cancel that event at the end of this year. We had almost 1,000 tickets already sold. I had to refund tickets, rerun different events for people, and people were like, why are you doing that? I was like, because I don't give a fuck about walking into a room with 3,000 people. I don't give a fuck about it. I can book speaking engagements like that all day long, and I say no to all those. That is not what I want. What I want is change. What I want is impact. What I want is a man who's sitting in the car, looking in the mirror, and feeling the shit that I was feeling. I want that guy to know. I want him to know because I got hundreds of case studies of men coming to this fucking place, powerful men, powerful producers, who are lost and they're hurting and they're alone, and the shiny shit and all of it is fucking bullshit, and it doesn't matter. What matters is real. What matters is like a conversation. What matters is connection. And so I built a training facility here at my offices. I said, we're just going to bring 24 guys in. I made a small approach. We're going to bring them in. We're going to do 2 events every single week. We're going to have 50 guys a week come through this place. We're going to get to know them. Then we're going to connect with them. I got an event happening right now down the hallway, the second one of this week, with guys sitting here in the office, real guys learning the Warriors way, being real with each other, powerful men who just need a place to be themselves. Not another place to peacock around, and I got this fucking car, and I got these suits. Fuck it. My suits sitting, they make me disgusted. I don't know. It's like weird. I look at them now, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I never did. That's the crazy part. Before mortgages, I never did. It's nice. I like it. Do you know why I got it? Because my wife wanted me to look different when we went on date night. And you know what? I love my wife. I want to look good for her on date night. The rest of the week, I'm going to wear Warrior Black. I'm going to wear the same damn pants. I'm going to wear the same damn shirt. I'm going to wear the same damn shoes. I do. I have an entire closet full of the same shirt, same pants, same underwear, same socks, same shoes every single day. Why? Because I don't want to spend time thinking about it. I want to spend time thinking about the thing that matters to me, which is like this mission of Wake Up Warrior, which is to wake men up and give them the tools they need tools that if I'd had them, conversations, if I'd had them, I never would have lost my first companies. Never. Wouldn't have lost them. Because I would have been in tune with myself. I'd have been listening. We started knocking. We weren't losing the companies. We weren't risking anything the last year and a half. But there was a trend that was happening, Craig. Like it was trending. I could feel it. Now that I look back, it was not something that was going to happen this year or next year, probably even the year after that. But I could see a slow, subtle, just decline in what I want to represent as a human being. I don't have a problem with nice clothes. I don't have a problem with going to parties. I don't have a problem with like people doing anything they want to do. But to answer your question, yeah, it can creep in. And yeah, the arrogance with my wife. And when she was pregnant with our daughter, who's 2.5 months old, I had to cross-check the fuck out of myself because the last time she was pregnant with our 8-year-old, I cheated. And I was a fucking idiot. And the fact that I dug myself that hole and she took me back and we got to have a relationship that was rebuilt. I was the most locked down fucking guy on the planet. I didn't look at anybody. I don't train women. I don't coach women. It's part of the reason why I got out of it. I was like, I do not deal with women. Why? Because I'm not stupid. I coach men because I'm a man, and I'm not a homosexual man, which means I'm not drawn to another man, which means I can be in an environment where I can be your brother. I can be with you. We can have real conversation. In that place, I'm guarded. I'm safe. I put up my walls. I'm not going to be the guy that risks to try to prove, oh, I can hang out over here and still be okay. No, fuck you. I'm not going to go to see who can get close to the edge of the cliff. I'm going to stay 12 feet back from the cliff, and I'm going to build a concrete barrier so I don't ever go to the cliff. I don't even want to see the cliff. I'm going to stay in this lane. I'm going to take care of my wife. I'm going to take care of my kids. I'm going to take care of my family. And the guy died. But there was a piece of him, started giving shit about the wrong things again. And it's okay. I didn't get angry at him. I stacked him through some tools that we had, and I spent a couple of months trying to figure out, okay, well, what took me down this path? Well, I had already fulfilled what I needed to. I helped my wife get her businesses off the ground, and now it was time for me to focus back on my 100% on the thing I was called to do. So she can now do the thing that she's called to do, which is work with all these amazing women in the hair industry and change their lives, which she is. Giving them ATM machines. These women are making more money than their husbands, and many of them, they're the income earner. They're the single moms with 2 kids trying to provide for themselves. And in the hair industry, these women are making $100,000, $200,000 a year, working 3 days a week, still getting to be full-time moms with their kids while still making money. And I helped my wife build that for the last 4 years. Well, now I got to unplug and do my own thing. So it's a daily thing. I wake up crazy every morning. Every morning I wake up crazy, literally. And most guys, if they're honest, wake up crazy every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like pressure to like, how do you deal with this? And how, particularly when you start dealing with bicycles with insurance. Insurance is a weird game too, because you got these long bicycles. It can take like 2, 3 months, 4 months. And so to make it and be successful in the insurance space, it requires you to be a different type of human being. You have to really care. I mean, you can make money and be a dickhead for sure. But you can do that in any industry. So
right. Well, I think it's really cool that, to your point of somebody who's like the chiropractor, who really cares. I mean, you're 100%. You care about your movement and dudes out there. Yeah. And it really shows, man. That's why we wanted to have you on here more than anything, is because we think that this message and how real you are with us and knowing that, hey, dude, we all need to constantly be tuned. A car constantly needs to be tuned. Like a guy needs to constantly be tuned. And I think we end up focusing on our businesses and not the whole that why are we making this money? Like, what about our family, our kids, and everything else? Like, you can get so consumed in that world, especially with, I think, insurance agents.
Oh, it's an all-consuming game. To be successful in insurance, like, you have to be obsessed. Like, and I think that's the case in anything. And the minute you become obsessed, it becomes very easy to isolate everything else and to justify it. And society allows you to justify it. And in the reality is your wife and your kids allow you to justify it. In our society, men have been taught that if you can make some money, you make money, you're good. Like, that's the American culture. If you make money, you're good. All right, you can be overweight. You can ignore your kids a bit. I mean, people will they'll give you a hall pass. You get a hall pass for it. And people look by it, right? Take a guy who's broke and overweight. People don't give him the hall pass. Take a guy who's wealthy and overweight. They give him a hall pass, right? It's just, it is what it is. Women over 30, they're not interested in fitness. They're interested in security. They want money. They want stability, which again supports the hall pass. And we got a society that supports the hall pass, which is if you get paid. So men have been taught, none of us were wrong. We were born into this. We were born, don't have any feelings. Number one. Number two, we don't really need you. Which is interesting because the entire rise of the feminist movement is teaching this. We don't really need men. And between like lesbian, gay, transgender, Q, whatever the fuck. I was talking about my daughters about this, like 12 and 8 years old. They're trying to explain it all to me. I was like, so many damn letters. What the hell's all this mean? And she's like, what's a Q? And she's like, Q means question. I was like, she's like, geez, Dad. I'm like, questioning what? Well, they're questioning. Questioning what? The fuck does this mean? They're questioning. Well, they're questioning. I'm just like, dude, there's so much shit going on and so much happening now that as a man, there's a shitload that is oppressing who you are as a man. And women don't like to hear this. And particularly everybody in the alphabet movements. They don't want to hear this. Particularly don't want to hear this from a white guy, but I don't want to hear this from a white guy. I'm like, oh, no. I had an Asian woman. She's like super powerful business consultant. She came up and she said, you know what you need to do? And I was like, what's that? She's like, you need to write a book. I was like, what's this book called? She said, The Great White Hope. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, I'm not kidding. And I didn't know what she recognized. She's a very powerful woman on Wall Street. She's like, you need to write a book called The Great White Hope. And she said, what? I said, I'll tell you right now, what's going to end up happening, and I'm already watching it happen, is that white, successful businessmen are going to end up with nowhere to go because anything they say, they will be crucified for it. And she's like, I watch it happen with all my clients, all my hedge fund managers, everyone. And it doesn't happen for everybody the same way. And she's all, I realize, and she's like, I can get away with saying this as an Asian woman. She's like, I know. And I was like, you think I'm going to take a stand on that topic as a white guy? And she's like, no, take a stand for men. This was years ago. She said, take a stand for men because the tides are shifting. Men are confused. And our younger generations coming up, it is a complete and utter nightmare. It's a complete nightmare. Like, give us another 15 years and like, we won't even not only be able to fill up military, like we will, our side is going to fucking fall apart. Like, men must rise. If they don't, I'm sorry, you can pump a woman full of testosterone all day long and sew a penis on her. She's not a guy. No different than cut a man's penis off and turn it into a vagina, and he's still not a woman.
Right.
So when I speak about being a man, like, this is a conversation of crucial order, and women think it's a conversation against women or I'm not supporting women. Not the case. You want a marriage and a family that's on fire, you better have a husband that's on fire. You better have a man in that house that's on fire, because you cannot be the man and woman at the same time without a radical impact on your children. No matter how amazing of a mom you are, at the end of the day, testosterone-driven male guidance influences your daughters more than you could ever influence your daughters as their mother. And so we 100%. Run into fucking chaos with boys who've been raised by their moms. My dad was like non-existent in my life. He was there, but he was a silent bystander. And then there was my mom, and my mom was amazing. She was an alpha mom, and she did the best she could, and she taught me how to be a man, even though she had breasts and a vagina, which was a very good effort on her part. And then I had to figure out how to do it. So Wake Up Warrior is an amazing place. We love what we do here. Obviously, you can tell I have a deep passion for insurance. I think it's an amazing tool. I believe it's an amazing weapon. I think insurance agents, if they do it right, are on a soul journey, and that the right people will come into the game. They've got to learn how to market. They've got to learn how to sell. But just consider that locking yourself down with a game like we play here in the Warriors Way, which you can learn more about that at betheman.com. And we have a 7-part series there that is available that will talk about the 7 pits that married businessmen with children face on a daily basis, some of the power moves you can make to offset them. And then also I told you about warriorwealth.com. Just check that out. Like, that'll give you an idea.
Yeah.
If you're looking to market your business, what a marketing system could look like and what we do to market for insurance inside of our agency and how that might be able to support you guys also.
That's awesome.
It is
couldn't
awesome.
have asked more from you. Like, thank you so much for taking an incredible amount of time with us. And gosh, that was awesome.
It's awesome, Garrett.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it. Thank you both for having me on the show. And I look forward to doing more with you guys. I'm getting the beep notification. I get to go down the hall to my little training room
Go do it.
and speak it up. So thank you both so much for this today. For all the listeners out there, listen, podcasts like these change lives. They do. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're listening, you're getting value from this show or any of the other shows, continue to share this show up with everyone else around you, who you know, particularly who are in the insurance space. Because yes, even though you're associated with other agents who tell you they're okay, and the reality is most of them are not. And they're looking for help, they're looking for guidance, and they're looking for another brother inside of the industry that they're in that they can trust. And you got 2 individuals running an amazing show every single week, bringing guests like myself on to give you value. So do what you can on your part to support the show by sharing it up today. So thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Garrett.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Garrett,
Awesome.
thank you so much.
You got it.
See you, buddy.
All right, bro.
55% of insurance sales producers say that they have had little or no sales training. Us agents focus on marketing to drive activity and often overlook the sales presentation. Improvements in mindset, shifting focus, rapport, needs diagnosis, value building, creating buy-in, and overcoming objections lead to drastically better closing numbers. The solution? Enroll your team in September's Sales Summit offered by Agency Vault. We will even assess your team to see which of their sales steps need the most improvement. Head to agencyvault.com to sign up before it's full.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.